Hey, what's up guys? Jack and Matt here with the ToastyBros, and today we're going to be showing you how to build a gaming PC. That's right, gaming PC for under 100 bucks.
So yeah, right here, this PC altogether is going to be about 80 bucks, probably a little bit less. We'll talk more about that in a second, but in reality, should you build an $80 computer? Well, we're about to find out, but first, a word from today's sponsor.
Are you looking for a new gaming PC build? Well, today's video sponsor, Thermaltake, might have you covered with the Glacier 360 liquid-cooled gaming PC, featuring awesome specs like the RTX 3060 and Ryzen 5 5600X, and of course it runs nice and cool, being a liquid cool system with a ton of awesome other Thermaltake components. This PC is great for gamers and even streamers who are looking to improve their craft. We showcase this gaming PC here on the channel and we're very happy with its performance and aesthetics, and you should definitely consider it by checking the link in the description down below. Especially thanks again to Thermaltake for sponsoring today's video.
So the fun news is that this will actually be a whole nother video because we're doing a full setup around it, which will be a really cheap setup. But basically, we bought this Dell Optiplex along with a monitor, keyboard, and mouse, making it basically a full setup. And then we decided, let's just do a video on just the Optiplex, because we gotta really shed some light on this thing because a lot of people kind of sleep on these, and there's a lot of really cool upgrades you can do. Now, today we're doing the bare minimum upgrade. You know, normally we would probably throw in like a 1050 Ti, a 1650, some type of low profile card that's pretty decent, that doesn't require external power. We kind of just said, let's just do this for the dirt cheap, bare minimum. Speaking of dirt cheap, our dirt cheap gamer, you know, but yeah, long story short, we're throwing in a really cheap graphics card.
So what we have is the R5 240, which Jackson's going to show you how to install real quick. It's super simple, but we did a benchmark video on this card and it's basically like 12 bucks or less, sometimes like $9 or $10 on eBay. So if you want to pick that card up, you can throw it in any office PC and make it a slightly better gaming office PC. It's not going to be amazing, but it'll actually allow you to play games unlike these things with their default integrated graphics. The UHD graphics on 2nd and 3rd gen is really bad, so this GPU is definitely a step up. So yeah, let's just not waste any more time and show you how to install the GPU and go over this Optiplex.
Alright guys, so we're gonna go ahead and get our Optiplex prepared here. Now, this one they actually did a pretty good job cleaning. That's not always the case. Sometimes these things come really dirty. You can really tell typically by just how the fan looks. So you notice how the aluminum looks nice and clean. There's not a lot of dust in it. So to get in the graphics card, we just pop this little bracket open, and then look, we're already missing our lane, so we're good to go.
I wonder why.
Yeah, normally you'd have one of these covers. It just comes out like this. You just pull it out. This little metal part, which, wow, the whole thing's coming out now.
It always does this.
Yeah, you can just take that out if you want to, but it doesn't really serve much of a purpose these days. So you're just gonna go ahead and get this in, line it up with the slot. It's gonna take some force. You should hear a nice click, and make sure that it's flat. You don't want it to be like slightly out. And then notice right here, this should line up in this little hole right here to where you just barely push it down. It should pop right back in, no problem. And our graphics card's nice and tight, nice and safe in there. So we got 4 sticks of RAM, which is always nice. And is it 16?
It's 8 gigs.
8 gigs, okay, so 2 gig sticks. And then of course, we got a stock cooler because you really can't really do much besides that. We got a 500 gig hard drive, which we'll talk about in a minute because hard drives can be very bad. I'm not even sure when this one was manufactured. It's probably quite some time ago. It's April 2015, so it's really not even that old of a hard drive, but sometimes they might have a lot of read and writes on them. We've actually had a drive that had 10 years old. I think it had been read and wrote the full amount. I think it was 5,000 times. You never know what you're getting into with an old hard drive. It's not like a solid state drive where, you know, they just work. Hard drives, they get slower over time.
Yeah, so we also have that i5 3470 in it, but as a system under $100 for office work, I mean, it's gonna be great. Now, the one upgrade we do mention, as Jackson talking about the hard drive, is an SSD. Yeah, I have a strong feeling about this, and I may or may not have already started benchmarking that the hard drive is gonna be a culprit that's gonna cause some problems, but yeah, $80 computer, what can it actually do? I know you're all curious. Let's just dive into some gaming.
Alright guys, now that we have this, well, somewhat gaming PC all booted up and ready to go, let's talk about the benchmarks real quick, because oh boy, it took me a couple days to get this one done. First up in Fortnite, using the default configuration with the hard drive on low settings, we got about 60 plus FPS, but there were a lot of issues. One, my monitor was stuck at 30 hertz for some weird reason. I finally managed to fix it, but because of how slow that hard drive was, it took me probably 20 or 30 minutes just to get to the setting to do so, without it constantly locking up on me and wanting to shut down. So yeah, Hard drive, not great. It is a Western Digital Blue that's not super old, but I believe it probably has a lot of writes on it. And the fact that I decided to go Windows 11, which I'll talk more about in a minute, which would end up being a mistake, obviously, with this PC, the performance just really wasn't there with the hard drive. So to save myself the headache from testing other games, because it probably would have taken multiple days for me to finish this project, I threw in an SSD. So yeah, this PC is not $80 anymore. At this point, with the SSD that's in there, we're looking give or take about $100 to $110, which we'll talk more about the price performance at the end of the benchmark run. But we ran Fortnite again, and we're getting similar performance, but the PC overall was way more usable. I was actually able to benchmark stuff and got stuff done in a day, so props to that. Now let's dive into some Minecraft. We're running 1080p, pretty much like medium-ish settings. You can see the settings on the screen here. One thing to note is, yes, I could have used Optifine, but the version of Minecraft I was running did not support Optifine at this time. By the time you see this video, it probably does support it. So if you have a cheap old PC and you're having some stutters in Minecraft, install Optifine. It will help you out a ton. But we did get 60 plus FPS with a few stutters here and there that I do think, if you installed Optifine, would sort themselves out and be a little bit more playable overall. So definitely consider installing that if you're having some stutters in Minecraft. But it does work. You can run around, play games like Minecraft, no problem with this R5 It is a 1 gig card, so you really can't stretch too far beyond it, as you'll see with the next games we test. But for a computer that should be $80, if you have a decent hard drive, a hard drive that's not super bad, or if you actually buy one without a storage device to begin with and slap in like a 240 gig SSD, I wouldn't imagine it'd be much more than like $80 or $90 total, and you'll actually get some solid state storage, which is miles ahead better than the hard drive speeds. Now this is where I started to realize that I made the mistake by installing Windows 11. I have a modified Windows 11 USB that allows me to install Windows 11 on pretty much any hardware whatsoever. It stops the limitation of TPM and secure boot and things like that. But the issue is there are some games that won't work very well on Windows 11. For example, I installed Valorant, but I could not play it because there is no TPM support, and it installed a Windows 11 version that requires TPM support. So if you're gonna play Valorant, don't install Windows 11 on these machines. Just stick with Windows 10. You'll be fine that way. But we did test CSGO, which did work, and 720p low settings, only about 40 plus FPS, 50 FPS max. It really wasn't that playable. I was expecting at least 60 FPS at 720p, but it's not the greatest experience in the world, and you're not going to be any bit competitive at this game with this PC. But do keep in mind, it's an $80 computer. I don't expect perfection, but I did expect a little bit more. Now the last game we decided to test was GTA 5 on normal settings at 1080p using that built-in benchmark, and we got an average of 45 FPS. For a computer at around $80, or right now about $100 if you consider pricing of me adding the SSD, I really do think it's a decent option. It's primarily going to be good for office work with that SSD, of course, definitely get the SSD, but it can do some light gaming on the side. Do I really recommend you get something like this for your primary gaming rig? No, just save up your money and get something else, because you're going to get much more value for your money that way. And also stray away from installing Windows 11, because I think that was the biggest problem I faced with this PC. It really does need Windows 10. So let me know down below if there's any other games you want me to test, because regardless of how this PC performs now, we're going to be doing a full gaming setup around it for $150, and I want to test some different games when we actually do that full setup. So let me know down below what kind of games you want to see. And yeah, that was the $80 PC, which ended up being a $100 PC, which realistically, if you did this yourself, you could still probably get it for $80. But yeah, this was a project that I should have known would go like this, but I kind of expected a little bit more. Let's go and bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick.
Alright guys, we just got done testing the $80 PC, and it is now worth a little bit more than $80 because, well, we had to go SSD mode, and on top of that, we had to go Windows 11, then Windows 10. So there's a lot of conflicting stuff on this computer because it's just old.
Yeah, so if you want to see the Windows 10 testing, because throughout the benchmark run, I just focused on Windows 11, the Windows 10 testing will be during the $150 setup, where we basically take this thing and throw it with what it actually came with, a monitor, keyboard, and mouse. And yeah, the whole setup is like $150. You really can't beat that, so stay subscribed for that.
As always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, check out our other YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/ToastyBros, and do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
So if you don't want to worry about having to hunt a computer, worry about not having a warranty or anything, because let's be honest, eBay can kind of be a little bit of a rabbit hole, you should check out our PC selling business, PCBros.tech.
We sell stuff like these computers at pretty great prices with warranties baked in, so you don't have to stress about things going wrong and being left with a broken computer. And if you use code ToastyBros2 on checkout, you can save 2%. See you guys later. Goodbye. See you guys later. Goodbye. I said that like multiple times. I don't ever see you later. Goodbye.